Do you think she's pretty? Yeah, she's a full-on Monet. What's a Monet?
What's a Monet?
It's like the painting, see? From far away it's okay, but up close it's a big old mess.
Am I romanticizing my lazy garden into an impressionist masterpiece? Yeah, probably. But here's the thing. Monet was a genius. He was the Pooh-bah at turning light into language and color into emotion. He meticulously cultivated one of his greatest works of art, his garden. It was a living canvas that breathed with the same rhythm as his paintings. My garden also had a rhythm. It was more like uncurated chaos. But in the same way that I like to reframe my negative self-talk, you know, like instead of shaming myself for eating all those candy bars, I like to think to myself, wow, I sure did get a lot of protein out of those peanut butter cups. Probably could have eaten another 4. So let's try it with the garden. Here we go. My garden beds were overseeded, overcrowded messes becomes the garden is movement before form. Soft swaying of stems, colors blurring together. This one is actually pretty easy for me to romanticize, even though, like, at its root, this was probably the cause of one of my biggest complaints for my entire garden. But I'll get into that a little bit later when I talk about the things that I want to change up for next year. I had so many beds that just like self-seeded like crazy. I had self-seeded snapdragons, larkspur, rudbeckia, cosmos, apple of Peru, and it was honestly, in the beginning of the year, it was really pretty and just like fun to see everything that was coming back. But over time, it just kind of turned into this overwhelming like tangle of stems, very little breathing room. It was very overwhelming to me and to the plants, and it just looked messy. But if we focus into this one area of the garden, I said it in one of my wrap-ups, this was just like a really nice mix of curation with the zinnias that I planted and all of this like self-seeded chaos. This was my first year growing cactus zinnias, and talk about a textured dream. These were so beautiful. I'm always like really excited about a cool texture, especially when it comes to my cut flowers, but I didn't have like super high expectations for these zinnias because honestly, sometimes I find different varieties of zinnias to be slightly underwhelming. I don't know, it's like hit or miss with my zinnias, and these were just a definite hit. I grew 2 different mixes from Johnny's and I just threw them all down in the same bed, and hot damn, they were like the perfect mix of spicy and romantic, hot and soft. Did it clash? I mean, maybe for some, but not for me. Okay, I loved it. And then with these zinnias, everything else around it just came back on its own from last year or reseeded from previous years. I had this celosia that reseeded like crazy. I had some larkspur in this bed that popped up, some rudbeckia that was really pretty that kind of showed up in the middle. It was all just so beautiful. Anytime I was feeling a little bit sad about different areas of my garden, I would just like come over to this corner and just stare at the flowers, at the texture, at the bees, and it made me feel a little bit better about everything else going on. And then, like I said, some of my other beds that kind of came back like this, they just didn't work for me. They just felt really messy. And I wish that I had like a lot more footage to show you, but I wasn't feeling like super inspired by everything. And I don't know, I think that on social media and things like this, we have a tendency to like try and highlight what's beautiful, and I just didn't find these things to be beautiful, so I need to be better at capturing. I'm really good at telling you what didn't work, but I'm not as good, I guess, like visually capturing those moments for you when I feel like I'm slightly let down by it. But my bee balm, it multiplied like crazy in this little tiny bed that I planted it in last year. And it just completely overshadowed my chocolate Dara that I had in there, which was one of my favorites from last year. This year, it was just kind of like whatever, it got overshadowed, it got overtaken. My agrostemma, I don't even know if I have footage of that, but it grew in between a bunch of self-seeded apple of Peru, and it didn't get enough sunlight, it didn't get enough nutrients, so it was pretty underwhelming. But I am excited to try that again next year. Same with the Dara, I'm really excited to plant that next year. It's just that this year they didn't really stand out for me. My forget-me-nots were completely forgotten and overtaken by this self-seeded Love in a Mist. This was a wild bed. This was a bed that I just sort of like looked the other way and ignored after a while because I wasn't expecting the Love in a Mist to just blow up like this, and it took over everything. So the forget-me-nots were goodbye, see you later, nowhere to be found. So I don't know, that was just sort of my garden overall this year. My spring garden was mostly ruined by rodents. Becomes rats. You can't truly appreciate the spectacularly beautiful without tolerating a little bit of defeat. So let's circle back to the beginning of spring. This was the first year that I let my peonies bloom. If you're not new here, you've heard me say this about 1,000 times, but for the last like 2 to 3 years, I've been cutting off the buds of my peonies, letting them establish, and this was finally the first year that we got to see them flower. And just thinking about how beautiful they were, I could like break out into a dance right now, okay? They were perfect. They were beautiful, they were healthy, there were so many different colors and varieties. And every time I walked down to my greenhouse, I just got like smacked in the face with this beautiful, delicious scent. If I close my eyes, I can still smell it. The rest of my springtime flowers were a total bust. We didn't plant a ton of bulbs this year, but the few that we did plant were completely dug up and eaten by rats. I even had a rat, maybe more, I don't know, but I had rats get into my greenhouse and eat some of my starts at the beginning of spring, which was so infuriating. And honestly, we haven't solved the problem. So the bulbs that I planted for this fall, who knows? I don't have a plan moving forward, but to say that it's like super heavy on my mind is actually a complete understatement. I'm like very stressed. So if you have any advice for me on how to deal with this, I know about traps. I don't want to use poison. I'm looking for something, you know, a little bit creative. Give me some creative ideas, maybe light on violence. But I'm open to violence. Light violence. I dealt with a lot of fungal issues. Becomes fungus makes the heart grow. No. To fungi is to be a fun. Nope. Roses are red, fungals are. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Romanticize that one for me, okay? And drop it below. This year was the year of fungus, and it sucked. It did. It sucked. It sucked a big one. My hollyhocks were like a mess of just like spotted yellow and brown foliage. My snapdragons, almost all of my snapdragons had rust this year. It was a really weird year. Even my neighbor was telling me that their snapdragons had a lot of rust on them this year, so I basically pulled all of my snaps from my garden like super early in the year, got them out of there. And then I didn't really have a lot of time to focus on succession planting this year, so I didn't have anything to put in those empty beds. So they were just sad, empty squares of dirt. And I rambled on and on all year long about how my bee balm was plagued by the powdery mildew. Okay, the fungals were strong, and I'm hoping that that is something that I can rectify for next year. Rectify? Do I want to say rectify? There are a lot of things that I want to kind of fix and change for next year, starting with just taking back a lot of my control over the garden. This year I was super short on time for a lot of like personal life reasons. So I kind of let the garden just sort of do what it wanted to do. I didn't, like I said, I didn't do a lot of succession planting. I didn't plan out all of my beds exactly the way that I wanted to. If it was reseeding, I just let it reseed where it was. And it worked, I guess, the best that it could for this year. But next year, I definitely want to have more control over what is growing and where it's growing and how many plants are in each bed. Not to say that I'm not gonna let certain things reseed and come back, because I definitely am. It like pains me to pull out perfectly good plants, but I do think that for me to enjoy the garden a lot more, I need to have a little bit more control and say on what's happening. I can't let Mother Nature just have complete control. Okay, I can't do it. Plus, I just find that a lot of reseeded, like self-seeded plants don't always come back as vibrant as they did when I first initially planted them. So I found this with my celosia. The first year I had really bright, punchy flowers, and this year they were like this really pretty kind of mix of like muted pinks and creams and like this greeny color that kept coming through, and it was beautiful. Like I said, the celosia was part of one of my favorite beds of the garden, but I did miss those like punchy, fun, vibrant colors that I had had previous years. And I kind of felt that same way when it came to my yarrow. There were still some pops of brightness and like super colorful like magentas in my yarrow that came back, but for the most part, a lot of it was like super muted pinks and kind of like creamy whites. And they were beautiful and like really easy to use in arrangements just because they're a little bit more muted. But again, I miss those bright punches of color. So I just want to be like a little bit more intentional about my garden. There are also changes that I want to make to my layout. I want to add some new beds. I want to add some arches, some new dahlias. I haven't really like mixed up my dahlias in quite some time. It's all very exciting. I also have a lot of like other projects in my head that I'm hoping to get to, especially now that I have a little bit more time in my schedule. I'm planning on building a new workspace for my greenhouse. I'd like to build a new like roadside flower stand with a twist. I have a little idea about what I want to do for that. I just have all these ideas and like fun new transformations and things that I'm really hoping that I can accomplish. But if you've been here a minute, you know that my ideas are usually bigger than my time management skills. Okay, I just posted a whole video about how I ruined my garden because I don't have time management. And if you want to check that out, it's a series. I have another episode coming out soon, a little bit shorter, a little bit whimsical. It's very tongue-in-cheek, self-deprecating. It's a good time. Check it out. But we'll see together what I can achieve in the next few months. Let's end on a super high note and talk about some of my favorite flowers that I grew this year. Okay, and starting out, once a favorite, always a favorite. Okay, these dahlias are staples in my garden. I love them so much. The Blue Boy dahlia, I don't grow a ton of purple flowers, and I just think that this one is so gorgeous. It's just a really nice like complementary but like contrasting color. And then the Preference dahlia is the most used dahlia in my garden. When it comes to cut flowers and like the arrangements that I make, this is my favorite. I use like the really big blooms when they're like mostly open. They make a really nice statement flower. I use them when they're small, like barely open, because they're just like this really beautiful like complementary flower. You can mix them in anywhere, everywhere, and they go beautifully with every color in my garden. I love this dahlia. I say it all the time. My other favorite dahlia this year is the Labyrinth dahlia, but this is just like a tropical sunset starburst. Like it's so juicy and beautiful and gorgeous, and every time I like walked by or glanced in its direction, I was just like completely overwhelmed by its color, by its beauty. It was just perfection. And while we are on the topic of tropical beauties, my other favorite flower that I grew this year was my cactus zinnia. but specifically it was this pink and orange mix. I bought them from Johnny's. Both zinnia mixes that I grew were absolutely gorgeous, those cactus zinnias. The blushy pink ones were a lot easier to use in bouquets, especially if you're doing like wedding work, because they are very romantic, very soft, kind of like a neutral muted pink. But for the garden, these like bright, punchy, gorgeous oranges and pinks, these were my favorite in the garden. The balsam that I tried out this year was also like very eye-catching, very punchy. I wanted to see how tall it would grow, so it was kind of just like a trial, and I thought that it was gorgeous, and I think that I'm gonna grow it again next year. I just have to figure out where I want to like mix it in with my different garden beds. So those were like my standout favorites. And then I have some flowers that like I'm really excited about. Maybe they weren't that exciting in my garden this year, but I'm really excited to grow them again and to hopefully use them more next year. So things like my chocolate Dara, my Clarkia that I grew this year, it was a double mix. I think it was like elegant salmon. It was so gorgeous, and I'm excited to kind of see it more in an organized garden situation. My forget-me-nots, like I said, I don't think I had any really grow this year, but I had them the previous year, and they're so pretty. They're this cute, like delicate purple flower. I definitely want to have those for next year. My flowering tobacco, I grew a ton of it in one of my beds. I had the big white like grandiflora flowering tobacco. That was really pretty. I'm trying to figure out where I want it to go next year. When it comes to that one, it's like I'll probably have it, but the Screamin' Peach Screamer, I can never remember the name of that one, but it was so pretty. I had these really nice like delicate like bell-shaped flowers. The color was perfect. The thing about flowering tobacco is that it's kind of sticky, which can be off-putting. I didn't really use it in my cut arrangements because of that, but I just loved it so much in the garden. And then I trialed so many cosmos this year. I grew all new varieties mostly. Like there were still a few, like the apricota that I had grown before, and that one's so gorgeous, definitely growing that one again. But I grew like a bunch of double click mixes, and I loved all of them. I think the double click cranberry and this like purpley white mix, I'll put the name up here, I don't remember what it was, but so beautiful, and definitely coming back to my garden in 2026. All right, and I think that's pretty much it. That covers all my thoughts, all my feelings about my garden this year. My garden as a Monet. Crazy, wild, brilliant masterpiece that it was. Thank you so much for romanticizing my garden with me today. I would love to hear, you know, what went right, what went wrong, what you loved about your gardens this year, what you're looking forward to next year. Help me romanticize fungal disease, if you would. That would be great. And I will see you guys all in the next one.
Wasn't hard to tell.